So I'm here with Tamberlin, the Fringe Oprah. How are you doing today, Tam?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. I met you at the No Jumper audition, and I have looked at some of your clips and I love your takes. Like, I feel like you're very real and you say like the truth and a lot of things that I feel like people like, try or would be afraid to say. What gives you like, that courage in journalism, like, to be able to express yourself and not hold back?
I think what gives me I don't know even know if it's courage. I think since I've been a little kid, I have very strong opinions. I was raised by my grandparents, so there weren't really any other kids in the house. So you kind of are privy to adult conversation all of the time. And I think that kind of, I don't know, just inform my personality. So, and if you know me, any of my friends, they know like if they've done something bad or if they don't want to hear the truth, like they don't come to me because I'm going to tell you the truth. Even if I love you, I'm going to find the sweetest way to tell you, like, hey, girl, you look beautiful. I love you so much. I think you're hot. Them shoes, that's not it. That's not it for this one. So,
It was really great to see that you made it to the top 10. And I felt like there were so many great content creators. I felt like anyone could have won the contest. Were you disappointed, like, that you didn't win?
not really, honestly. We were making jokes with some of the people that did last into the top 10. Like you've been saying you was going home all day. Like, stop it, stop it. Because I just knew from the beginning when we first got inside, like, it kind of started early. So we were outside waiting in line, different things. We all had to get checked in one by one. It was a
Right.
slow process. And then once it got started in there, it went crazy. Like they made a circle, they started fighting. Flacco came in, like Don King, and was hyping everything up. And I was just like, oh shit, like there's no lane for me in here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then I started to see some of the girls coming in, and it was cool. One of the unfortunately she got kicked off first. I was in line with her, and I was like, okay, there are other like cool girls here, like dressed regular, all right. And then the super sexy ether came in. I was like, oh, that ain't nothing I could do with that.
Right. I never thought like I had any chance of winning. And I was telling people like that beforehand because I don't feel like that I really fit in to No Jumper. And I knew that kind of going in. I think they they told me that. But like I did well enough to last like to the next round. And I felt really good about that because I thought like I'd be going home a lot sooner than I did. And it was a great experience and really to connect with other creators and people who are doing like the same thing or similar things that I'm doing and have a passion for like content creation. What was like the best part of the experience?
Definitely meeting the other content creators because as you know, when you do this as a hobby or a job, it does become kind of isolating because it's not that popular and it's not a traditional career.
For
So
sure.
you just become the weirdo in your friend group. Like you're the person that's always on your phone or you're the person that's always on social media. And to be in a room with other people that are like me was like, oh, this is cool. Even meeting you and going to your Instagram, like, oh, this is so cool. He does like media things like me. Ooh, I would love this. And that's why as soon as you follow me, I messaged you like, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I loved your takes. Like every take, like I felt like you were really on point. And some of these are, I don't know if I would have said about like the exploitation because like obviously like if you're trying for the audition
Mhm.
like something like that could be offensive like I probably would have I think I held back my tongue and that's just me being honest because like I wanted to go to the next audition and almost like the idea of I don't want to insult them or made them feel offended.
Mhm.
Was that something like that went through your mind before you spoke your mind?
I think initially when I came in and we were all waiting for our turn to speak because that line was crazy long. Yes, I was like, what am I going to say or what am I going to do? And then when they started doing the pairs, it was like, dang, who am I going to get paired with? But my upbringing is very, very strict and stern. Like one of my grandmothers was in the Black Panthers. I went to Marcus Garvey Elementary.
Wow.
My dad don't play that. So there's a lot of just who I am that I can't turn off no matter the place because it would feel dishonest to myself.
Right.
And people are up there twerking, acting crazy. We got OnlyFans girls in here. Why can't I tell the truth? Why can't I say my opinion? And I'm always going to do it respectfully.
Right. You
But
should
yeah,
be able to
Adam.
do.
Yeah, well, yeah, Adam, why is not more white drama on here? There's plenty of white, crash outs in the world. Gather them up.
Most definitely. What inspired you to pursue a career in music journalism, and how did your journey begin?
So this kind of happened on accident, honestly. I just really love music. I always have. I've always been the girl that's like gonna run to Target to get the CD because I don't want to get the edited one from Walmart. And back in the early aughts, we used to have like the album liners with the song credits and who wrote the songs and all of those things. So that has always been my favorite part of music. And like then when we went to the internet and Napster and all that, it was like A to Z lyrics. So I want to go on and make sure I'm like singing the correct words to the song. And then I wanted a career in music, but not necessarily as an artist or anything. I really like marketing and working behind the scenes, and that's what I went to school for. So I just felt like, oh, I'm not getting hired for any of the jobs that I want, so I might as well just go online and share my opinion. And if somebody sees it, they see it, cool. And if not, like, oh well, at least I'll like get it off my chest and not feel like I didn't ever try at all.
Right. I feel that it's so difficult to get jobs in media and entertainment. And
Hmm.
I know like a lot of people like, that they had to create their own platforms because they weren't getting hired by like, the platforms at least that they wanted, or,
Hmm.
not being utilized in the way like, that they should be because there's so many talented people. And I feel like particularly for people of color is so challenging, especially in white dominated spaces. What has been your experience like being a woman of color trying to work in media?
Oh, it has been crazy because it seems like, okay, I live in LA, so there's a lot of opportunity here and like all of the major things are here. But when you're applying, especially as media, even if you just want to go, like you're not trying to get on the guest list, you just want to go, maybe be on the carpet, take some pictures, maybe get to ask a question. It's like there is a whole million man march of people ahead of you,
Yeah,
and you will never get that PR response. But then for no shade, like the Black events,
right.
anything related to Winnie Stacks in the city. Shout out to Winnie Stacks. Anything BET weekend, those sorts of things. Rappers events, you have a way easier time, and then they end up calling you urban media when you got pigeonholed into that. Like those are only people that would answer me, or those are only people that would respond to my request. I wasn't only trying to make my YouTube channel like a Black entertainment channel. It just happened that way. I would love to go to the Emmys. I would love to go to the Met Gala and report from the carpet. Are you guys gonna let that happen? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
Right. I've never been to events as prestigious as those, but I do a lot of content with white people. And I would say I take criticism for that because it seems like, if I
Mm,
start doing interviews like with white people will be like, well, like, you're you're a black man from Chicago. Start acting like it. I'll start getting comments like that. And like, I'm just like, I don't think about like color. Obviously, like, there's some people and stuff like because like I really feel it's important to uplift black voices and
mhm,
especially like people in the black community who are doing excellent work. But I don't think about like color per se, like when I'm doing interviews. Like, I just like, if it's an interesting story and it's not like, promoting something like that's hateful or just there's something fun like I have interest. I like Taylor Swift's music. If Taylor Swift was going to do an interview with me, like I'd be down to do it, and I feel like that they do try to pigeonhole like people who are black, like that you can only just cover black
mhm,
events. And
mhm,
I feel like that's I and I know like there's people who have broken through like that barrier, but like I feel like that is it's so closed-minded, and especially in 2025. You know, uh, how do you stay ahead of emerging music trends, and what role does social media play in your work?
Emerging music trends is hard, but again, because that's my hobby and it's just what I like, it is a little bit easier. So earlier times we had like that piff where all the like the
Oh,
mixtape
yeah, I
music
used
would
to
go,
love
and I
that
would wake
pen.
up every morning and like check it before school, before work, anything. But now it really is heavily reliant on social media. You have to follow the artist that you like, or even if you heard one song by them. I feel like Twitter is the most place where it's engaging and it's not just a lot of advertising or a lot of flexing, because that can get tiring to just take in all the time, like people showing you their mansion, people showing you their chains. But on Twitter, it's a little bit more interactive. People are speaking, so you can follow your favorite artists there. And what has been very helpful to me is the people who are maybe like not on the radio, don't have a record deal and things like that yet, they're very active on their social media. So it's been very easy for me to get in contact with them, to maybe have them on my show, to go to a concert and speak to them there at the concert and try to connect with them, give them a board for my skateboard brand, anything. So Twitter has been really like my PR company or my assistant that would help me get opportunities because without Twitter, like I got into Doechie's album release party because I talked to her DJ on Twitter.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I feel like it's so great the networking and the opportunities that happen on social media. And sometimes like, just the right message can really open doors. And I don't have like, a whole lot of followers on Twitter. And I find it like, really difficult, but I have met like a lot of really interesting creators who like, especially like in hip hop and like, people who like are have really great opinions. I think like,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about you, what you said about Alchemist and like, him being like, a white person that you respected in the space. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, like, she really like, after that, I was like, man, I really wish she had won because like, she's a great, I would watch you. I'm a fan of your takes now, like, because I felt like, that a lot of people don't really say anything like it is one thing to say things like that get views or get clicks
Mhm.
and like I feel that there has to be like a balance like between like intellectual conversation and adding value. Like I think it's fun like to joke around, but like I also like think like that there's a space for people who have good takes. Do you feel that social media in general, like, it's not enough emphasis on people who have like, really great conversational points and it's more about clout chasing, more about like, salacious topics as opposed to intellectual conversation.
I think so. And one of my favorite podcasters is Deontay Kyle from the Grits and Eggs podcast. And he was just talking about this recently, saying that it is way easier to find like loud, ignorant people on social media than an informed, well-balanced take because the internet is just about engagement. And what gets more engagement than when you upset somebody or when you enrage them or
Right.
when you say something that's so far left? So a lot of that has gotten so loud on social media, and those people are pushed to the top. So a lot of the other people like me or people like Deontay, and it's harder for us to get an audience because we actually have to find people who want to hear something and not just watching for the crash out. And that takes more time and that takes more effort. And I think a lot of people who are educated or have informed opinions during that process of gathering the audience, it is very tiring. It is hard. And if you're smart, you would be like, oh, there's way better, easier ways for me to make money. I'm not going to do this. Or there's way better ways that I could be using my time. I'm not going to do this. And then sadly, the less informed people rise to the top because they're going to keep going. They're just getting in front of the camera saying stupid shit every day. It's easy.
Right. Yeah. Like I understand like the idea of polarization and that if you have like an opinion, but also like I do see like a lot of people who don't have intellect and like
Mhm.
that they seem to just shoot ahead and have like these huge subscriber bases where there's people like I really enjoy and they have like really great content like yourself and there's a couple other people like I've had on the platform like who have really intelligent takes on like hip hop and care about the
Mhm.
culture and it's almost saddening because like I love hip hop so much, but like also I feel that there's a lot of people who exploit the culture as well. And like, specifically, like, for black creators specifically, it seems unfortunate that they don't get pushed as much in this space. Do you think that that's a problem, like, as far as black creators, especially in media, being able to have an equal voice to their white counterparts?
I hate to say this, but I think it would inform a lot of people. I've had my YouTube channel since 2016. I put together a show where I went through everything. When I went through music, I had a section called Politics, Black Politics, and then I did fashion at the end. And those are some of the least watched videos on my channel. And people will come under a Beyonce video, a concert video that I've recorded somewhere, and give a full political analysis about things and bash people. Why are you here looking at this? And who cares about this? calm down. This clearly wasn't your algorithm, so this is what you like. Because I have a ton of political stuff on my channel, and you didn't get that. You didn't watch that. So of
Yeah.
course people post more of this. And then as far as Black people in the space, I do feel like for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's the money behind it. I don't know if it's ads, I don't know what it is, but white people do seem to rise very high and very quickly giving their opinion about Black topics, not even just hip hop, dances, anything, because it seems like our people want to see that. Or when a white person is talking about it, they hype it up like, oh yeah, he likes rap, he knows
For
about
sure.
rap. Let's clap for him. But if it's you or I, that's seen as normal. Us being well informed about it is not even like seen as a talent or that we took any time to study it. It's like we were just born knowing about these things, and that's not the case. If anything, our opinion would be more well-rounded than a person who's never even had a shared experience with the person who made the music.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would add that I see that even with artists, music artists, where there's a lot of white artists who are nearly as talented as some of their black
Hmm.
counterparts. And it seems like, that it's very difficult for black artists to get the numbers and the viewership. And like, white artists could be half as talented and
Hmm.
they're out of here on another level. And like, it's unfortunate. I think like, that do you think there could come a point where like rock and roll would happen where it was
Hmm.
black people who started doing rock and roll, but then white artists like Elvis Presley and you now like today, like you don't even associate black people with rock and roll, even though like they were like Chuck Berry and a lot of like other of that particular time like were the founders and the creators of rock and roll.
Yes, I think that there will be a time if especially if we don't do something where hip hop or not hip hop, I don't know which genre that it would use because hip hop is already like the rap version of pop. So I
Yeah,
think there will be a time that hip hop is dominated by white faces because they already try. And you see major publications, major networks always, every single time, try to insert Eminem in that top three or in that top all the time. And it's because he's the only white rapper of note up to this point. He's the only white rapper that has any sort of credibility. So they put him up there. But over time, as the youth and the TikTok kids get older and they get our age, there will be people like Jack Harlow and Ian and whoever else can come out and emulate the Black person just like Elvis did with Rosetta Tharpe and all of those people. Basically, Elvis was hanging out in the hood in Memphis and then he just went to present it and it was accepted. And back then, segregation and things, so it'll be that same sort of barrier. Think about, I think an excellent example would be like Gucci Mane, how he was on probation for things that he did in America. And then due to his criminal record, he could never go to Canada.
right.
If it wasn't for whatever he said, shout out to Drake that helped him, there could have been a white person that just assumes that persona and takes on that sound and takes on even that look because they do that too now with fashion
Yeah,
and tattoos and everything else. Look at
right,
MGK. And
right.
then that's their version of Gucci Mane in Canada. So the real Gucci Mane never has a chance because they already like him and they think he was the first person. And then when Gucci Mane finally gets his situation cleared up and can pop up, it's like, well, he's copying him. He's copying Iceman. We
Yeah.
love Iceman. He's a fake Iceman. Like that's what seems to be happening. And it seems like Black people are either we don't care or we aren't informed enough to stand up and stop it when it starts. We kind of hype it up. Like we all hyped Jack Harlow up. And everybody kind of, you know, gave him that little momentum until he fell off. But
I mean, I totally agree with like what you're saying. And there's some white artists who I feel like are authentic. And like I would say, like, I enjoy Little Dicky. Like what he does is
mm-hmm,
completely original. And I feel like it adds value to hip hop. I think in some ways, what you said applies to Millie's, but like I believe, like, that he's authentic and that's who he
mm-hmm,
authentically is. And I enjoy his music. But I can't really like as far as that, like I can't co-sign any other white rappers like that I enjoy.
mm-hmm.
Maybe like if you want to consider like at one point Jelly Roll, but I wouldn't consider him a rapper, like but he makes great
Or like
music.
Alabama Barker, right? I would never shade Alabama Barker or talk down on Alabama Barker for speaking about her experience, um, being a little ghetto, talking about, the things that she might have been with because she's a whole OnlyFans girl. She
Right,
started off broke. We only know who she is because her mama was telling all her business on Dr. Phil.
right.
So she can continue to do that. But um that's Bad Baby. But Alabama Barker, I might have got them confused right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Bad
that's
Baby.
Bad Baby.
Yeah.
But Alabama Barker, that's not your story.
Right,
And you're
right.
coming out and you're trying to ride the wave of Bad Baby, even though you've been in the mansion the whole time. Your mom is Miss America and your dad is Travis Barker,
Yeah,
but you want to be ghetto right now because it's trendy and you date rappers. Get out of get out of Bad Bobby business.
for sure. Like, yeah, it seems like a lot of cultural appropriation and like where people don't even like necessarily call it out like when it is occurring. And I would even say like in some ways, like I would look at Bad Baby, like, as cultural appropriation. Like I wouldn't give her like that much credit. I feel like I see the point of, like just because you grow up in a neighborhood, it doesn't make you black. It doesn't
No, it
it
doesn't
doesn't
make
make
you
you
black.
marginalized. Yeah,
No, but it does give you a certain kind of experience
right,
that you could bring to hip hop and it will be authentic when you speak.
for
And
sure.
the things that you say, no one could discredit you. Just like a lot of our black celebrities that are rappers now. Not all of them necessarily grew up in the hood.
Oh,
Some of
for
them came from
sure.
nice homes, nice
Yeah, private
families.
schools. Yeah, like a lot of times, like people don't even necessarily like. I feel like that was the great thing about 8 Mile, because like
Hmm.
Eminem, like he grew up in a trailer park, and even though like he may not have like really like been completely from Detroit, like I know like some people say
Hmm.
like that he's from Missouri and then he moved to Detroit, but like
Hmm.
he lived in Detroit at a period and there was some authenticity. He was actually like a battle rapper, and I like that line where he says, "You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school," which like
Hmm.
Cranbrook is like this amazing boarding school in Michigan. Like I dreamed of going to Cranbrook because I grew up in the Midwest, and it was like this very expensive boarding school, and like I remember going to like the orientation. And my mom was like, I can't afford to send you there because it's just too expensive. And
Hmm.
like, it was like these schools like look beautiful. Like, it was just like I was looking at like these boarding schools and like wishing like I had that opportunity. And, but that resonated with me in the film for Eminem and like, just like what it's like, especially like in hip hop, because I feel like, that hip hop came from the Bronx. It started on the streets. And now we see like a lot of people and stuff who didn't necessarily have that experience. Do you feel that for hip hop to be authentic, do you have to come from struggle? Does it have to be like can you come from like a rich home like and like your music is authentic?
Yes. And because also I'm a private school black kid, I understand,
Okay.
but it's just the fact that so many people, because of the foundations of hip hop, right? Like you said, coming from the Bronx and like all of the first hits like Nas and different things, that's what it was about. So people feel the need to sort of cosplay that in order to be real or be
For
street
sure.
or be hood because those are the adjectives associated with hip hop. But I'll give you like a Pharrell. I'll give you a Kanye West when he
Right.
first came out. I'll give you a Lupe Fiasco. Those
Yeah.
people did not feel the need to fall into that, even though they may know about it. That might be their real life, but they didn't come here to talk about that.
Right.
And it comes off way more authentic and it almost opens up the world a little bit to other, and unfortunately up to that point it's only been black people, but it opens up the world to black kids to let us know, we don't have to just identify with that, or you're not black, or you're not black enough, like kick push and stuff like that. I'm a suburban black kid. I have way more in common with that than Nas talking about piss in the hallway or Jay-Z talking about selling drugs. I don't understand that. And then Kanye West coming out, she's talking about being fly and college dropout, talking about being in college and how the elitism with that broke five broke. And when you are a black kid in college and you see that, like, and you understand it and you can relate to it way more. Like everybody's not struggling in the projects. And that's the other thing about some rap or most rap, especially in a certain time period. It's so far on the crazy criminal side of things that the average person can't relate to that at all, regardless of color.
Right. No, I totally get that. And I think that the best music or the music that seems to connect with the most people is universal. Like the songs
Hmm.
that like you a black person or a white person, like see Asian people at the concert, like they have these
Yes.
universal themes. Like, I was talking to someone in a previous interview about like one of the things I loved about like Nipsey Hussle is that even though like that he was from 60s, he had this message in his music, which is relatable to almost anyone. And it was
Hmm.
about like, striving for better, like, also like, he spoke affirmation, particularly like, to black men. And like, that you have like, value and you have worth. And then also like, just like, the motivation and to hustle and like, always like, like try to get money or like, try to pursue your dreams. And I feel like, that's a universal message that people can pick up on. Who are some of the artists like, that you're fans of that you like, have taken like, their message and it resonates with you like and it's affected your life like in a positive way?
Um, of course, you just mentioned Nipsey, so of course Nipsey. That comes to my mind because he's from Slauson. I went to Marcus Garvey, and growing up, my dad always used to tell me that because I skipped 2 grades in school, so he would be like, "It's a marathon, not a sprint, kid. It's a marathon, not a sprint," all the time. So when Nipsey came out, it was just like a affirmation for that, like and reaffirming my dad would tell me, like, "Yeah, you can't stop." And then, like you said, he would carry through his messaging, letting people know all the time too, because rap does very much seem like a come up story. He tells people, "Oh, the only difference between me and you is that I didn't quit, that I
Right.
didn't stop." So I love that. I really, really love Tyler, the Creator, because I feel like he's a weirdo black kid, and we don't really get to see that kind of representation for us. They always kind of typecast us in a couple of boxes. So I love that Tyler always comes out and he does these immersive projects where he becomes the thing. And I went to fashion school, so I'm very big about world building, and I think he builds a very nice world around each of his projects, and it just shows you a different side of him and it takes you to different places. So I really enjoy that. And I take a lot of motivation from that too, because it's like, don't ever let people box you in and don't ever let people tell you what should be next or make you feel like, they know what's hot. Tyler's from Hawthorne and he makes golf clothes,
Right.
like,
I remember I am so proud of Tyler the Creator because like I remember when he used to be on Melrose and like he wasn't like
hmm.
that huge, he was known, like everybody knew him, but like, like what he's gone on to accomplish since, like, that's like amazing. And he's been authentically him. And like,
Hmm.
he can really like pop his shit, like, and it's great, man. And like I respect that so much. How do you balance providing honest critiques with maintaining good relationships within the music industry?
It's kind of easy at this point because I don't have many relationships. I kind of just try not to be too mean in my take because I did grow up in that media time, like Wendy Williams,
Right.
Oprah making Toni Braxton cry on the couch and different things. So I do feel like there's a way to go about everything and there's a way to say things without sacrificing your message. So I try to do that. And most of the time in my reviews, almost all of them, even though, like I said, they haven't gotten mass appeal online. I almost have always gotten reached out to by the artist directly to tell me that they like my take or that they really appreciated me sharing their lyrics because, when they go to interviews, people never talk about that. And people never really ask them about the music. They're more so asking about social media and drama and things around the project instead. So I really appreciate that. And I think if anything, especially in these times where everybody is either like a yes person trying to get clout on the internet or just absolutely insane
Right.
saying the wildest thing they can, you can appreciate somebody that's just giving you plain logic. Like, I'm not trying to be biased. I will give you three compliments and then tell you the bad things because it's not, nobody's all bad. Even there was like a lot of controversy with Roddy Ricch on the last thing that he dropped. And I'm like, don't try to, I went to social media immediately. Don't try to fry Roddy Ricch. Like, this is the worst rap y'all ever heard. He came out with a crazy hit, The Box. How are you going to follow that up? That's not, most people don't do that.
Yeah.
So, just balancing your opinions. I think people are too thirsty to go viral now. So they just want to say anything.
Yep. It's funny you mentioned Roddy Rich. That's my biggest viral YouTube short on YouTube. Like it has 34 million views. It's just him coming out of the marathon store.
You
Getting
see,
into
like, that's
a
what people care about.
right, like him coming out of the marathon store, getting into a Lamborghini, and like
There you
sets
go.
up all racks in the middle, and like it's and like how do you uh can you talk about a particular artist or story that had a profound impact or your perspective as a journalist?
When I was first getting started and really like just posting a lot and being consistent on my own platform, I think I reviewed an album by The Dream. And I really love the Dream since Shorty is a
Mhm.
shit. And I love him as a songwriter as
Yeah,
well. So I
incredible.
reviewed his I reviewed his project, and his wife like ended up following me, and then she reached out to me, like she commented, and then he DM'd me like a few weeks later, and it was so cool. He gave me like a lot of positive feedback. He said, he loved my takes, and he was like, I'm always like spot on with the things that I say and to keep going. And it was just a super cool interaction. And that was like, I think that was during the pandemic. Everything was locked down and boring too. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna stop. Like my favorite person, like the Dream, who I respect, incredible artist, not even just for himself, but he's written hits like for Beyonce and Rihanna and everybody. He took the time to DM me, like the Dream knows who I am. I immediately posted Ananda Lewis on my story, like when people ask me who I am, this is who I think I am.
Yeah, like I totally feel that. Like I uh I love that. Like, Tam, I think like, that you have like, such incredible takes. And I'm honored to have you here. What advice would you give to aspiring music journalists trying to break into the field now?
I think that people say this all the time and it's corny, but you just have to start, and you have to start now, and you have to start with the things that you have. I feel like a lot of emphasis is placed on perfectionism because everybody is looking at social media all the time and like these finished products, and even like the no jumper thing, like people are judging themselves up against that. When you can just start right now, like I started in
Right.
on the floor in my apartment. I put a bunch of records up behind me and like sat on the ground and just recorded with what I had. And then like time went on and I could, gather more things than I did. So when you do that, you have to understand also that these apps, these social media apps are free advertisement. You don't
Right.
have to try to get on NBC or try to, interview or audition for a spot on whatever late night show. You can create your own with the things that you have. And if anything, when you're consistent, people will admire that and people will come to you just off of that. And yeah, I think if you focus more on that instead of like the whole infrastructure of what you have, you'll go a lot further. Also, a thing that helped me a lot in like the middle of my journey when I was starting to get discouraged was like stop looking at your views and feeling bad about yourself,
Right.
comparing yourself to people that have a whole team or a whole staff and industry. If you have 300 people in the room, that's like a sold out show.
Right.
So
Yeah.
300 people showed up just to hear you talk and listen to you. You should be more than pleased with that.
Right. Yeah. I like now, like I'm at a point in my journey where it's like I don't really even care about the views. I care about like, just creating the best possible content that I could create
Hmm.
and knowing like, that I'm proud of the content and how it came out. And like, I'm really putting in the craft and like working at it, like, whether that's editing it, titling it correctly, the description and making sure like, that I'm proud of like that aspect of it and how it comes out, obviously the conversation. But
Hmm.
I think like a lot of times like people they do get discouraged about the views. I've seen so many people who like, were content creators and like, they get burnt out and they end up giving up.
Hmm.
Or like, they feel like that, man, like, it's like my channel must not have any value because it's like, it's not as big as these other people. And, like if they kept going, like, who's to say like what could happen? Because, any day, like, something good could happen. Like, with content creation, I've had videos that have gone like super viral. They've gotten picked up by like Fox News and CNN. And, just like sometimes like very like simple stuff. I think that it's really just like, like creating content and like obviously like you develop more of a sense too. Like the more you do it, you get better at it. Like with anything
Yes.
else. And like also one of the great things is like you don't have to have like a lot of resources, like, which is like it's good for like high quality content. I would love like, since you live in LA to come do a podcast with me like in person because I do at the Burbank podcast studio, not too far from where the new No Jumper studio was.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, yeah, but I don't think like I like to do high quality content not because of the views, because like just to have like high quality content and then like I can
Hmm.
send it to someone if like like hey like this is what the interview would kind of look like to give you an idea like what I'm saying, would you be interested in coming in and doing an interview, and then like it's like you get good guests like that way, or like quality guests. And I like it's not like about like, and then during topics that are like passionate to me. So like one of the biggest things for me is I really like to talk about the persecution of Christians like worldwide, because like I feel
Okay.
like a lot of people don't talk about that at all like in mainstream media. And like there's Christians that are being murdered like in Nigeria, Syria, like
Hmm.
all of these other countries, and nobody really even talks about it in mainstream media. How do you see music journalism evolving over the next few years, especially with the rise of podcasts and virtual interviews?
It's I don't want to be pessimistic about it, but it does seem like the more democratized it gets, like the more of us that have these sort of situations where we can just come and speak, the less artists are starting to come out and do interviews at all. And it's because they feel overexposed. And I believe it's like the pull of social media and that fans now, like when we were younger, Beyonce or Christina Aguilera, somebody put out an album, they do a press run for that, and then we don't see them for a while, and we don't know what they're doing every day, and we're not getting a constant update. I think because of social media, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these things, artists feel like they don't really need to talk about their project. Like Gunna just came out with an incredible album, and I don't think he's spoken to anyone.
Wow.
So it kind of gets hard. And I think that's why, as community of creators in general, because I don't want to just limit it to podcast or media or music professionals. Creators in general should take more of a community outlook and network across, I think is a good way to say it. Because if you just came out with something and you're not that popular, thus say you have 5,000 followers across social media, and then our platforms have a little bit more. You can come to our platform and speak about your thing and share it with this audience. Maybe our audience doesn't know who you are. And that would help us all, just like at the No Jumper thing, we met each other, now we're speaking. That would help us all because we might not get the Gunna interview or we might not get the NBA young boy because they're not going to do it at all. They don't feel like they need to.
I just wonder what it's going to be like when AI takes all the jobs. Like, it's like,
Well, I think YouTube took a big step in stopping that because they
right.
demonetized that content. So that incentivizes people to do this instead
Original
because
content, yeah, for sure.
I saw like for the past 4 or 5 months, it just has been a wave of content on this is how you can make a whole AI channel, and this is how you can set up an AI podcast, and this is how you can. It's like, whoa, okay.
For sure, yeah. Like I do. And AI, like, is just really impressive. I see some really good AI content.
Hmm.
And it seems like, that I can't imagine like what it'll be like in 5 years, like, especially like now, because
Hmm.
like some of the content, like, that is AI is really incredible and like what they're able to do. I'm really impressed. Do you use AI at all or?
I love technology, so I love AI. I was like one of the first people when it got public to use Mid-Journey. That's like the image creation app, and now ChatGPT has kind of stolen that with Sora. So any new gadget thing, I'm gonna try. I love AI. I love the whole prompting process. I've gotten very good at that. I use AI at my job. I use it for my personal life. It the environmental impacts kind of worried me a little bit, but I also feel that capitalism has already taken a hold of it. So me using or not using it ain't gonna stop no show.
If you could collaborate with any artist or fellow journalists, who would it be and why?
Any artist. If I could work with any artist, it would be right now. I really, really love Alameda from TDE. She's new. I
Okay.
feel like she is. I don't want to compare her to SZA because their music is very different, but she is the first Black woman that I've seen in that pop, rock, TRL type of space. And she's from East Africa. So I would love to speak to her and collaborate with her, even if it was just like on her creative team or her marketing team, anything. I love Alameda. And then for a journalist, I grew up on Big Boy's Neighborhood, so that. But for me specifically, I really, really love Angie Martinez. I feel like she is just everything when it comes to this space, especially for women journalists, because she does not shy away from the tough questions. She talks to everybody. She's talked to, the toughest, the biggest, the best, but she doesn't really go after them like a Wendy Williams. And I feel like she's a little bit more endearing, so people share more with her. And then her now moving on to her own platform with In Real Life is so inspiring. And to see her still have momentum and still get some of the best guests is just, yeah, I want to be, mini Angie Martinez.
Yeah, like I love Alameda, like her Chameleon, like that song is
Hmm.
incredible. And Angie Martinez, I would like to meet her. Oh, she did like a interview with like Tupac Shakur that she never released, because she felt like,
Mm.
that it was like during the height of like, the East Coast, West Coast war, and she felt it would be irresponsible journalistically, like, to release it. And like, I wonder, like, what he said, but that's what I was saying. I like,
Yeah.
I would love to be friends with her just to see that interview. Like I know, like, because like Tupac was wild, like, with what he would say, like off his mouth. And
Hmm.
but it was so much truth, like, but he was unfiltered, like, but like, and I have a take, like, that a lot of people don't agree with, in that I feel that Tupac, there's evidence that Tupac was killed by U.S. intelligence. And
Oh,
yeah, like I just did an interview with John Potash. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he wrote the FBI War on Tupac Shakur
okay.
and his civil leaders, and he talks, like, he gets the FBI files. Some of them are redacted. He has the CIA files. And like, there's a lot of evidence that like Tupac was murdered by corrupt police officers. And then Suge Knight pretty much hinted at that. And it makes a
Hmm.
lot of sense. Like a lot of people were saying, like, that Orlando Anderson was the shooter. But the very next day, a lot of people don't know this, is he went to UCLA hospital and he had a dislocated shoulder, and this is with his shooting hand. So how could he shoot Tupac four times from the back seat of the vehicle with a dislocated shoulder? Like it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. So, I mean, and then like there's also like where the bodyguard who was in another vehicle, he says like he was on the radio and he heard like, after like Tupac was shot, like, somebody over the radio say got him. And then like, Reggie Wright is implicated because like, there's corrupt police officers that are said to have killed Russell Poole, like, who was investigating. He was saying like, the
Hmm.
same thing that like, he was trying to bring charges on like, these police officers. And it's just like if you when you start going down the rabbit hole, it's like, man, like Keefe D, he really didn't do it. And like it's like why, like, that's why like they go and offer him the proffer agreement. And like, he writes a book and says like, it
Hmm.
makes sense why he would take credit for the murder, because imagine like you're a gangbanger, you're supposed, in the city, like, to be respected, and you get beat up by a rapper at the MGM Grand. And then people
Hmm.
assume because a murder happened after that that you're responsible. So like, wouldn't you're not going to say that you didn't. You're not going to go out of your
Yeah.
way.
To disprove it. Hmm.
Right, right. Do you have any thoughts about that, or?
Being from LA, that's so crazy, and hearing all of the like conspiracy theories and yeah, what Suge has to say about it and everything, and even the whole like nobody gets cremated in a day stuff. It just
Yeah.
is wild. I think Keefe D sort of is a classic example of when clout, goes too far because there was no reason for him to be doing interviews and to be speaking about this that far removed from it. But it's like everybody has their bills to pay, and Vlad offering you a little money, you might go on there. But sometimes you gotta.
You mentioned about Vlad, like, offering money, and I like, Vlad hates me to this day, I believe, because I revealed that he pays people for interviews, and an interview I did with Murs, where Murs exposed, like, how, according to Murs, that Vlad, like, takes advantage of people's drug addictions, and like a lot of, he built
Mm,
his platform, like a lot of the artists that he interviewed had drug problems, and they basically like needed the money. That's
hmm.
and do you feel that's unethical? Like, if somebody has a drug problem, because I feel like it could be looked at as like, both ways, that you're trying to help someone. But like if you
Hmm.
remember before I wrote that article, Vlad was saying like, that he didn't pay people for interviews. He never before Murr said that. Then afterwards, like, okay, I do pay people for interviews. So like,
I think I think it does damage your journalistic integrity because then it automatically puts like a certain shade or tilt to the story. Because are they telling you all of these things because you're just very good at answering questions and you've researched this very well, or are they telling you these things because they feel like they have to divulge secrets because you've already discussed it previously and offering them money and that's why they're here? As far as exploiting the people, because that's been a big conversation recently with the other man that does soft white underbelly on YouTube.
right, right,
He
yeah.
has, yeah, he has a lot of downtrodden people on his channel. I
And I
think,
guess he falls in love with like some of the prostitutes too. Like that's
I mean, it's obvious if you watch any of the interviews, how they're talking to each other, it's obvious. But I think that people sort of have to take a different approach. I know people may not like this opinion, but when you're on drugs and you're already living a certain way, this person putting a camera in front of you, it may be bad for you, but that is just what it is. You decided that. And you decided to tell your business and you're deciding to do this for money. It's an agreement and you're an adult. Do I think it's the best for that person's maybe legacy, for their family, for their children and all of that? No. But in the moment they wanted that 5,000, that 10,000, whatever Vlad offered them, and they were willing to, for lack of a better phrase, show their ass for it. Some people get on there and they don't. I saw the interview with Miss Shaka Khan. She did not get out of character at all. She's not going to answer any questions that she doesn't want to answer. Is it exploitative? Yes. But at the same time, record labels do it all the time, right? Everybody knows Kodak Black high out his mind, tripping, but they're not gonna not let him talk about it on the song. They're not gonna not put him out on tour or whatever it is, all of these things. So I think it's hard once we as a culture start to accept that to police certain people. Like I know as a Black person, it does make me feel a little cringe, right? To see like a white person is maybe giving them 5,000 and then profiting 20, 30
Right.
off their interview. But at the same time, they could have come to you or I and told their story. They didn't
Right.
want to do that.
Yeah, like
Jaguar Wright was going up, going crazy on the internet for months. I bet you everybody was throwing money at her to come on there and act unhinged.
I'm I'm not opposed to paying someone for an interview, but it would be not for profit because I respect the person's story so much or like, their
Hmm.
legacy. Like I paid Mopreem Shakur like for an interview. And it wasn't because I was like hoping like, this interview gets like a whole bunch of views, but I love Tupac so much. I went to, when Tupac got his star on the Walk of Fame and like,
Hmm.
I was there, like, I'm a huge Tupac fan. Like, I feel like, his music resonated with me. Like I would any like artists like that work with Tupac, I would want to talk to them. And like I
Hmm.
understand like necessarily like that they're not necessarily going to want to do it because my platform's not as large as like some of the other platforms they could go on when they
Hmm.
could go on DJ Vlad. So for me, it makes sense like to pay them, but not an absurd amount of money. It has to be like reasonable because like some people want like $5,000 or
Hmm. Hmm.
and
But
but
to your point about the Vlad thing, yeah, his platform already is huge, and you're going to get a bunch of views, especially if you're telling a good story. So why
right,
does he have to pay you? It makes sense for smaller creators like you and I because that's even making it worthy of your time, right? That's
right.
gas money for you to pull up, all of that. But Vlad, why you need money to go on Vlad? Because he's paying you to tell your business.
Right. And then that makes me though wonder also though the credibility of those stories because a journalist called
Mm,
out my Mopreem Shakur interview. His name is Jeff Pearlman, and he says the story like that Mopreem Shakur says in my interview is basically BS. I don't know if you know who
mm,
Jeff Pearlman is. He's a sports writer and he's writing a book about Tupac. And there was these clips that went viral on the internet, and basically he was saying like Tupac can't shoot, he couldn't fight, he wasn't really
mm,
that guy, and like it went viral. And I was supposed to do an interview with him, but he ended up blocking me on TikTok because I after those clips I did a video where I was talking about like why just like if he couldn't shoot, how do you shoot those police officers? Why is there's all these
mm-hmm,
pictures of him at the range? It's like what kind of narrative are you pushing? And like that's kind of like the problem like where I have where white people come into the space and tell like black stories. You even see that like with films. Do you feel like
mm-hmm,
that there's a problem like with white authors coming in and telling black stories, and also like why like are people not given the access and opportunity? Because I feel like if I wanted to do a Tupac book, and
mm-hmm,
I think it would be so many obstacles for me to be able to speak to the people,
mm-hmm.
uh, to be able to do it. It seems like that black people are prejudiced to an extent against other black people and giving them the space sometimes to you know uh tell these same stories, but they open up the door for white people like just like you see what I'm saying.
I agree. The thing that I feel that it is, and this could just be because I'm from California, I feel that it is like your association. Because if you are black and yet you're on ESPN or you are a
Right.
writer for the LA Times or something like that, then people open the door for you.
Okay,
But when
this is
you're black and you're doing your own thing, it's like, oh, well, I don't know about that, and I don't want to be involved in no like nigga business or no shady, or I feel like I could get more from my story, so I don't want to waste it on him. I'm gonna wait for
right, right,
Jeff Pearlman to come talk because I know
for
he
sure.
got you. So, and I feel like that's what a lot of it is, and black people just won't say it and won't come out and be real with one another and just let it. Because if you want me to get some more bylines or something like, you could say that, and I can
Right,
go
for
apply for a
sure.
job real quick, and then moonlight over here with you if that's what you want. If you want me to go work at Essence for 2 weeks and not get paid nothing and come back to talk to you, let me know. I can do that. But it's like there's a little bit of lack of honesty. And to your point about a lot of obstacles being in your way if you were to make a Tupac book, because I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It doesn't come as a shock from you, or it wouldn't be seen as like groundbreaking or legendary from you. You might have to put it out yourself
Right,
because publishers aren't going to line up to put that out. But a sports writer can get a deal for it to put it out. It's just
right,
the
right.
politics of the
And
world.
he's an amazing sports writer, which I was telling him, and I was excited to read his book, because like I
Hmm.
have enjoyed like his writing, but like some of the things like that the clips that went viral, like which people were really upset, like it ended up like where he was actually getting threats from people online, like like death threats. It got like really bad for him and like was affecting his mental space. But I I spoke to Chuck D, and Chuck D was saying like that's why he told him like he didn't think that that was the book to write it for him
Hmm.
to write, but like he wanted to write it. And I mean, like, I'm not saying that he didn't have a genuine interest in Tupac Shakur, but like leave like our black icons alone, like and it's a way like I felt like I was saying like where he could have said what he was saying respectfully, but like I felt like that his rhetoric was so much aligned with like Candace Owens. I don't know if you saw the video with Candace Owens where she was talking about Tupac, and she was saying like she pulls up like that video of like where he was like 15 or 14, is living in Baltimore, but he's very effeminate in the video.
And
And
he's like going to art school and he's like a
right,
dancer.
right, right.
Hmm.
But like if you watch that interview, he talks about like having a girlfriend and like it's just
Hmm.
like he's a kid. Like
Hmm.
sometimes like just like the idea of like because someone does something effeminate doesn't mean like that they're and there's nothing wrong with being gay or like a member of the
Hmm.
LGBTQIA
Hmm.
community. And that brings up like, do you feel that why are black people so homophobic? And it's like it's like it's an insult in our community, like for
Hmm.
people like to say, but like why I don't care like who you're having sex with, and like it's like why do you care like who I'm having sex with, if you're not gonna, it makes no sense.
I think it becomes very childish, and
You
I don't
for
want to say
sure.
like our people have very immature morality because it comes from like that slavery Christianity. That's really the only thing that people can like point to where being gay is bad. And I kind of have a bigger problem with it in our community specifically because then they use it as a catch-all to demonize a bunch of different things. So like,
Yeah,
oh, you're feminine, you're weak. Oh, you're feminine, you're this. I've never met a gay, especially man, I've never met a gay man that can't fight because they
for
have
sure.
been bullied and going through shit their whole life since before they even
I
decided about their sexuality.
I was in LA County and I saw like one of those like gay powder blues beat the brakes off like a gang member like who was in general population because
Every time.
it was like he beat the brakes off like like a legit gang member like and like it was
Yeah, because so many times before they have even done anything sexual because of how they speak or how they act or the things that they like, they're being bullied by our
for sure.
community and their own families about being gay. So then they learn how to fight. So y'all saying, oh, Tupac, was a ballet dancer, he's not hard. I bet you he probably beat your ass.
Yeah, that was the thing though. Jeff Pearlman was a legend. He was saying that Tupac couldn't fight. I don't know, like necessarily like his fighting prowess, and like also like I feel that you have to put that into comparison, because a gang member saying like that Tupac can't fight is different than a regular person, and I feel like you have to like kind of like bring that into context and like
Hmm.
That's what I took issue with, like in the clips, like that he had online and some of the other remarks that he was making. I felt like that saying like, okay, like Shug wasn't a gang member, like of course, like what I mean, he's gonna be considered pussy to actual gang members, but I know for a
Hmm.
fact because I've spoken to members of Mob Piru about this specifically. And they viewed him as a gang member, and you're saying like that he wasn't a gang member because he went to he grew up in a house in Compton. And I just like I don't know, like I just feel like it's problematic for like a white person. Maybe it's like like if a black author like had said that, like it would have been more digestible. But I like it sounds very much like like conservative rhetoric to me.
Hmm.
And it's like, it's like I was like, who wants to read this like, conservative, this conservative agenda Tupac book? That's it.
But that's why I say that it is about the audience too, and about the associations, because you who wants to read a book about Tupac by a white man? Other white people.
Right.
And then some of this is being written for that audience. You're trying to make Tupac more palatable to them. You're trying to make Tupac relatable to them. So they find themselves, parts of themselves in Tupac when that's not a thing.
And then people
They
like ask me like, why do you feel like that Tupac like was going to be murdered? Like, why would they do that? And like, okay, well, like Tupac was member like number one, like who his mother was. She was a member of the Panther 21. So like
hmm
they were hated by the United States government. They hated the Black
yeah.
Panthers, and like
Tupac was born in jail.
exactly, like so like COINTELPRO, that's like a legitimate thing. And they have like how they've done like all these other civil rights leaders. We can talk about Fred Hampton, we could talk about like so many different like but he was trying to politicize gangs, like while he was so like he was in the New African Party, like before, like he joined in Digital Underground, he was the chairman of it. So like that was one of the things that they were trying to do is like politicize gangs. And he really like think about like what happened like after he died, like what I mean, a war breaks out between the Bloods and the Crips. Like it was like if he like was alive, like what I'm saying, that possibly they don't want that unification. And then especially like imagine like if gangs were doing positive things in the community or
Hmm
actually like advocating for change,
hmm
that's definitely a reason for the federal government to kill Tupac. And then
I mean,
maybe
even aside from that, just positive messaging
for
in pop
sure,
culture, I think a lot of people don't take into account how serious propaganda is in our country
most
and
definitely,
how much it controls everything. Like they had problems with people in our grandparents' time. Like they arrested Billie Holiday for
for
Blood on the
sure,
Leaves. They gave Nina Simone a hard time for Mississippi
yeah,
Goddamn. They Bob Dylan, white little Bob
yeah.
Dylan also was, on their bad side. So I think people should take a little bit more time to think about things like that in the messaging, because right after Tupac is no longer with us, then we have a whole new era of music and hip hop, and it's money ain't a thing. And now everything is about flexing, and now everything is about what you have, and it's not necessarily about social issues. And there is no more Brenda's Got a Baby, and there's no more Keep Your Head Up, and there's no more Dear Mama, there's no more any of that lane of music. It's all gone now. And that's seen as conscious rap or weak rap.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't want to hear that.
Yeah, like one of my favorite rappers is actually Locksmith from Northern California. Like I think like he does like such a great job like like a conscious rap. There's a bunch of other people like who kind of veer I would consider like LaRussell. He sometimes has like conscious messages.
Hmm
And then you know of course, like there's like artists like Immortal Technique, and I think like Dead
hmm
Prez is coming. They're one of my favorite all-time hip hop groups. I feel like they don't get enough credit, and just like I wish.
And I was going to say, none of the people that you mentioned have been platformed by any corporations or any major labels. None of those people have been given any corporate money to blast their message across.
Right, like yeah, like I mean. Yeah, because it would go against the agenda. I think like when you get
Hmm
those money, you're getting paid not to do those messages a lot of
Yep.
time. I heard like I don't know if it was true, but I read like something where we were saying like for Rock Nation, like that you can't mention Jesus like in your music, you like you
Mm,
or like I thought that was interesting. I was like, that I like could see like that they don't want necessarily positivity or like certain
hmm
messages out there, and not to say that it could be like for another reason, like maybe they feel like
hmm
Christian artists like just aren't going to be like something they could push or like that they want to align with or like in the idea of like religious music.
I think it's more so, and this might be like my marketing job speaking, but I think it's more so about things that we can attach consumerism to. And I think Most Def, Yassine B, his new name, I think he spoke about that very well on the on this podcast that he was on, saying that you can't attach consumerism to this, so it's not, we can't make money off of it, so it's not valuable for us. And if you're going to talk about Jesus or talk about certain things in your music and your messaging, we can't sell anything to this, so it's not valuable to us. And you can give it to whoever you want to give it to, but it's not, we don't want it because we're in the business of selling things. And we can't put no girls twerking in Fashion Nova outfits. We can't put no liquor, can't put no cigarettes, no weed, no nothing on this. Then they're like, go play it to who you can.
Since you brought up Mos Def, what do you think about like his relationship with Diddy? And like there's like a lot of rumors online, like that he was at Diddy parties and like some of his behavior, like like leaving the country, they feel like that is linked
Mm.
to something that happened at the Diddy parties.
I don't know. I don't know because Most Def did. I don't. Yeah, I don't know enough about him personally. I
Yeah.
think he did marry a lady that was like exotic dancer or something at some point.
Mm. I never knew
So
that.
yeah, he could be freaked out. We don't know. We don't know. But over the past years, he has been out forever, right? Miss Fat Booty that came out early 90s or something. So
Yeah.
of all this time, we haven't heard anything negative about him in the media, or no people have come out against him or spoken to. And now his daughter Layla is, that's just not my problem. So I think at this point, maybe something negative would have came out by now, so I don't want to attribute anything to him. And then people that have, like
Right.
Russell Simmons, he's back in America. I just saw a video of him walking around New York.
Oh, I saw him in West Hollywood. Like, when people were saying like, that he was overseas, he comes back and forth quite a bit. Like, I got a photo with Russell Simmons like not that long ago, like where he was in West Hollywood. He was right, uh, where was that? Like I was on Sunset, and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, he was just chilling, like,
So
like,
I think some of these things that people say, especially with the Diddy trial, it's very easy to connect every black celebrity to Diddy.
yeah. Do you feel like that Diddy like that he's going to go to prison. Like, there's wagers like, that whether he's
Mm.
going to get prison time or not. Like,
I don't know. It seems like I wasn't following the case super closely. I was just listening to the lawyer people that would pop up every now and then on Twitter. It seems like most of the serious charges got dropped. So I don't
right,
know
yeah,
how long he will do or if it's going to be time served or anything like that. I think that this was very shameful and embarrassing to all parties involved
yeah,
unnecessarily.
for sure,
And I kind of don't even understand. And I don't like to really be a conspiracy theorist about these sort of things because I do feel like it diminishes the people that were hurt or the people that were involved or
for
anything like
sure.
that. But it does seem like this was a whole just public exercise because what do we find out about this that changed our opinion of anybody? Like for the better or good. And then what did this do for the public? Like Cassie, you were his girlfriend for years and years.
Right.
This just sounds like a bad relationship. And because you were in a bad relationship with a rich man, you get to sue him. But if you were in this same bad relationship with the man that worked at 24 Hour Fitness, you would just have to take your L.
Yeah, like I think I seen that video. Cassie definitely deserves some damages, but like
Hmm
not necessarily like the damages that she was awarded. I like, maybe like, I think it's very problematic in our culture where people can sue for anything, and it doesn't necessarily like
hmm
Shannon Sharp, for instance, where like
hmm
he paid this OnlyFans model like and she can retire and let's take
hmm
wealth away like from the black community. That money, like, would have likely gone to his family, like after he passed away. And like, now, like, a huge lump sum is going to a OnlyFans model who they had a pretty much consensual relationship. And, he was set up. And like, I think like it's pretty obvious.
I think that our culture and the men specifically have a very hard time with legality versus morality.
Yeah.
And just because something is legal doesn't make it morally correct, and the public will judge you for doing things that are morally incorrect. And just because other people from other groups and other walks of life are able to get away with this behavior and people don't say anything, maybe it's expected of them. Maybe that's normal in their culture. Maybe, people don't care, but you got famous for different reasons. So people attribute certain things to you. And when they find out something of the opposite, then they don't want to be bothered with you anymore. Like Shannon Sharpe, you're a Hall of Fame football player. You're on ESPN, you're on all of these things that are owned by Disney, which is a family corporation. There, you can't live a certain way. You can't live like just a regular rich, let's say white man or Hispanic man that just made that money off of owning the HVAC company or off of real estate because he's not beholden to anybody. And he can go out and get in a situation with an OnlyFans girl and it don't matter. But you are beholden to the public. And the public found out that you were, boning somebody you're three times the age. They don't like that. So now you're under public scrutiny and now she gets to take your money. The same thing with Diddy. You're freaked out like every other millionaire that lives in your neighborhood. You're no less freaked out than Hugh Hefner. You're living in his neighborhood. But you are beholden to the public and your image is in the public. So now we're finding out that you treat your girlfriend just like a lot of rich people treat their girlfriend. And you got to pay her though. I
Um,
think black men have a problem with accepting that and with dealing with that. They feel like they want to act like everybody else in there. Because Shannon Sharpe is on record saying that I want to
right,
date my wage. I want to date, screaming it into the camera. And it's
for
like,
sure. So, Shannon Sharpe, he's like 57 years old, and then the
mhm.
OnlyFans model, she was 20 years old. What are your thoughts about age gap relationships?
I think that you open yourself up as the person with more money in the situation, whether you're the young one or whether you're the older one. You open yourself up for public scrutiny, judgment, and financial harm because one person is here for um reasons other than all the ones that you think in every situation. If
You
it's a
don't think
young,
though, like
Mhm,
somebody that's 20 or 57, like, that maybe they really are like attracted to the person, like, for instance, like Leonardo DiCaprio, like,
mhm,
he's 50 years old now and he
mhm,
still dates like, women who are like of a similar age, but I imagine like they're really probably like, attracted to Leonardo DiCaprio in that aspect, like, because some there's some 50-year-old women or 60-year-old women that I see like, and they're very attractive, like.
mhm. I think that, yeah, in those situations, you might be attracted to Leonardo because of who he is, his status,
Right.
his cultural significance, all of that, and then the lifestyle that he has as well. But you cannot, and no, I don't think anybody would say that you guys are building any relationship that's like off of shared values and mutual interest and all of these things. You're not. You're there because he's rich and he's Leonardo DiCaprio and he likes you because you're young and you're hot.
Hmm.
So even the intentions for being with each other aren't even matched up, and that's why those situations never work out.
I don't know. Like, I think my thoughts, like, because I feel like that with people, like, I hear that a lot, like, where they say, like, oh, like, what do they talk about? What does someone have to talk about with like a
Hmm.
20-year-old or like, but
Hmm.
like, I know like a lot of young people, like in college, I live like near UCLA and like, I
Hmm.
regularly conversate like with people in college and like, some of them are real. When I go to the gym, there's a lot of people like, that at the LA Fitness I work out that go to college. And we'll
Hmm.
talk about like what they majoring in, and they seem to have like really great conversation. Like some people like they're majoring in economics, and I'm actually learning something from them. So like I wouldn't say like that you couldn't like have a conversation with someone like who's mature. Obviously like your values may be a little bit different, but like I think
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I like maybe like in a situation like I feel like on the other side, like so like you Bill Belichick, who's like the former coach of the New
Hmm.
England
He's
Patriots.
dating that young girl.
Yeah, and so in a situation like that where it may from the outside looking in, but like maybe she really just enjoys this conversation. And the fact that he is rich and maybe she can, because she is like, desired by him can control him a little bit, like
Hmm.
where he's like going to try to appease her because, it's
Hmm.
probably not easy for him to get a young woman's attention at that age. So
I agree. I don't disagree with that. My dad dates the youth. I'm my dad's youngest child. He dates people younger than me. I think it just puts you in the situation where you can be exploited.
for
And
sure.
then when it happens, you cannot act shocked and nobody's going to feel bad for you and there's no
Yeah.
pity because you walked yourself into this room where you could be exploited. That's just what it is. And maybe, yeah, she was cool and she was cute for 6 months out of the eight. And the last two, she took your money.
Yeah, but like there's people like who get exploited and they're dating someone like their age. I think about like Journey Smollett. Are you familiar like
Oh yeah, of course.
what's going on
But
with
but that too, and I feel like that dynamic, that's what I mean just across the board. When you are in a situation and you're dealing with someone who has less than you,
yeah,
then you open yourself up for exploitation. And it doesn't matter about age, creed, color, any of that. So you every time, men and women, you should be cognizant of that and you should be, I don't want to say judging, but you should be very sure about the reason that this person is with you. And I think that's why people have the whole prenup situation in
for
conversation, even if
sure.
they don't even really want you to sign it. It's because what kind of person are you? Let's gauge this right now.
Yeah. Like I think that it would be absurd like if I was like Travis Hunter like getting married and not getting a prenup, and I love like the ideal that he has that much faith in God and his spouse, like
Hmm.
regardless of what the internet says, that he can take
Yeah.
that risk. I can honestly say that like if I had known like what I knew now, like because I went through a bad marriage, like I would have gotten a prenup.
Hmm.
It's for sure. Like I think that you as a man, marriage like it favors women, like family court, divorce court, all of that.
Hmm.
And do you feel like that a lot of people say online that there's no advantage for men getting married? I don't believe that, but like, what do you think about that? That
I
it's
think I think that it is almost to the exclusive benefit of a man to get married because if even if you're just in a baby mama situation and you leave or you move out or whatever, she has to still run that house and she still has to take care of that child with or
yeah,
without you there. So marriage is the benefit, is really of the ultimate benefit to the man and the children because that's the guarantee that everybody's going to stay together, the closest you can get to a guarantee. As far as financial things, I do feel that all people, no matter the income bracket, should have conversations and should have legal arrangements, trust, prenups, whatever, before you get married, because it is a legal institution. And getting married is about, it's a tax entity. All of the feeling stuff is for you and your house. Once you
right,
take it to, and that's why people say, I don't want to do no paperwork. That's because you want to be shady. But the paperwork formalizes this and it lets the government know, hey, I'm doing all of it's like a business. I'm doing this with my family.
right.
And if the person that you feel that you love or that you feel like you trust enough to share that much of your life with, if at the outset they're not willing to agree that, hey, if we break up, we're not leaving with anything that we didn't come with, and everything that we got together, we're going to split it, or hey, whoever keeps the kids keeps the house. If you can't have those conversations before you get married, even if you're having a courthouse wedding, then you should not be with this person. I would be willing to go as far as you shouldn't have sex with that person because then you fuck around and have a baby, and then what can you do now?
Yeah, most definitely. And in our community, we're the most unmarried people in the
Hmm.
US, like, and compared to like other racial groups. Why do you think that
Hmm.
is?
I think it's because our culture, sadly, we don't value it because so many people do like shack up.
Right.
And it's seen as, I've heard people say this and it blows my mind every time. Oh, I can't get married. That's too much commitment, but you have a baby with a person.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can get married and divorced like it's papers and money.
Mhm.
A kid, you always have that baby, unless you're going to give it up for adoption. Then the baby gonna hate you from a distance and come find you later on. It doesn't make any sense. But our community really does not value marriage for whatever reason, and I think a lot of men demonize it so much that now women are repeating those talking points. So they're like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to do all of that, and that's too much. And I don't need no paperwork. And yeah, we've been engaged for 20 years and crazy shit like that. Like you live in the house. You have kids, you share money, you do everything that married people do, but taking it and formalizing it is too far. Everybody in your house having the same last name is too far.
Right? Like, and there's like, legal protections, like, God forbid, like,
Hmm.
that someone passes away, like,
Hmm.
like where like, the spouse is able to like, get, the
Yep.
assets and like, there's none of that protection, like, not being married and,
Even if you're on life support, people don't think about that. You get in a car
right,
accident and now your wife has no say, or your girlfriend, baby mama, whoever has no say. Your mom, if she even cares to come, is gonna come have say, or the doctor gonna
right.
pull the plug on you.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Tam, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely like, let's tap in and like, stay in touch. I'd love to have you back. And, like I was saying about the Burbank podcast studio is not too far from like, the where we did the No Jumper audition. And, what are your thoughts about like, just like the No Jumper, like, the experience, like, what was your favorite moment?
The no jumper thing was so crazy. Everybody, all the guys were making jail comparisons. I've never been to jail, fortunately, knock on wood. But after leaving, it did feel very intense. Like I feel like I have 50 new friends. Like everybody I met and there was really nice. People like you. Jessica West, I already knew her from outside. And then
Yeah,
it
she's
makes me
super cool.
sad
Are
because
you coming to the stream tomorrow?
yes, I am.
Yeah, okay.
And then some of the people it makes me annoyed because I don't know their real name, but like Brandon Slayer is super
Right.
cool. Ricky, aka House Phone Flip Phone, that's the
Yeah.
homie. Ugly Money Nishi, super great guy, nice guy. I hope I want to be on his podcast too. Some of the hosts were cool. Me and Adam was super cool. My favorite part about it though was that going into an environment like that, which is so opposite of me and everything that I do, everybody was very open to me. They were very accepting. I got to speak my mind. I didn't have to like, downplay myself or anything. I didn't have to get hoochie. I didn't have to get ratchet. I didn't have to
Right,
fight
right,
nobody. So I really appreciate that. And I think that my experience should give people a different perspective, maybe about the platform too, that you go on there and they literally let you be who you want. They just turn on the camera and they turn on the mic. So the people that you see acting a fool is because they want to act a fool. You see the people
right.
that's getting ratchet is because
We'll
that's what they want to
do
do.
for sure.
Don't
I
ever
feel like
think
it
that's
puts you in positions to reveal your true character.
yes. And what you're willing to
It-
do for that attention in that
right.
moment.
For sure. Yeah, like I did see that. I wonder, like, how some people felt like afterwards, especially like if they didn't win, like, about
Hmm.
the situation. I like I wonder that because
Yeah,
it's
did
like
you get in the boxing gloves and you had to go home?
oh yeah, that was really bad. Like I but like I've talked to some people and like a lot of people were telling me like that they were a little bit disappointed, particularly like it wasn't like what they really expected and then like especially some of
Hmm.
the people who travel from like out of state and like they didn't know like because obviously like they knew it was going to be messy because they watched the platform but I think like
Hmm.
it wasn't really like transparent as far as what was going to be expected. Like you
Oh
kind of
yeah.
just so I went in like I don't know, like I'm just going like which I came from like West LA, so like it's not like that's nothing like
Yeah, it wasn't that far from me either.
yeah, so like I felt like oh I'm glad like I don't know like if I would have if it, like I've been out of state like I don't think like I don't like unless they were offering me some money like to come I don't think I would have came because like I know like
Hmm.
I know like there's always a chance like especially like with those auditions and I learned that young like I think I traveled one time to do like an unsigned hype event and like like
Okay.
I killed it because like I make music and like I killed it I did like what I'm saying and they were just looking at me like like not impressed. They
Just
didn't care.
dry.
Yeah, they didn't care. Like the fact like that I came, and then I didn't get it. I was a little disappointed. And then like 6 months later, they reached out to me like what I'm saying. They're like, "You want to be on our mixtape?" Like,
Dang.
thank you so much, Tam, and I really appreciate you for doing this interview. And like I felt like this. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of you too. Like for having
Thank
integrity.
you.
I have two daughters, and if they grow up to be like you, like I'd be so proud. So,
Oh, thank you so much. I hope to
definitely.
work together again, Ryan. Invite me to the Burbank studio. I'm there.
Okay, definitely. I love to. We'll do it.